Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the Engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
You know, here at Bent, we love the children. I just really hope none were listening to that.
The only reason you have a Helios 3 is because I brought it to you. You couldn't afford a goddamn ugly stick on the salary you make pulling tourists around Abaco.
Went in, bought all the flies, bought a fly box to put them in, went out to the river, immediately lost the fly box. And it was one of the cool ones with like, it was like the aluminum and glass with like the windows and shit.
Just find someone who get out under the mistletoe and oh my lordy, make it happen.
Good morning, degenerate anglers, and welcome to Bent, the fishing podcast that just wants to say...
She falls in a well, eyes go cross. She gets kicked by a mule, they go back to normal. I don't know.
I'm Joe Cermelli.
And I'm Hayden Samak, and I have no idea what that was.
Oh, you have to at least know what it's from.
I saw the title of it. Like, I know it's from that, but like I've adding to the pantheon of movies that Hayden has not seen. That is in
You've
the
never
annals
seen
of
the
that
Christmas
hall.
Vacation? You
Nope.
had to have seen the Oh my God.
I've never seen any
wow.
of like I know there's like Family Vacation and I've never seen them.
All right. You might hear something about that. Anyway, what that was, I opted out of Clark Griswold saying, folks, Merry Christmas at the last second while putting this together. And I opted into that because I felt like it, because it's a better line. That's all.
Is it the anals or the annals?
I think it's either way. It's like tomato.
All right. Well, I'm sure listeners are going to let me know. And I mean, like, and that's even if they're listening today anyway, because it's Christmas Eve. So I guess it kind of gives us a license to sort of say whatever we want without a bunch of consequence.
Yeah, I think we can be a little weirder than normal. You know what? Since Bent started, I swear to God, every major holiday has fallen on a Friday, like without fail. Like join us next week for the fucking New Year's Eve show. Like, give me a break, But despite that, we always have a good time with holidays. I mean, if nothing else, it makes coming up with a theme incredibly easy. So that's always kind of nice.
It is kind of nice. Like the obvious thing for me to do right now is to ask you. These holiday scripts do write themselves. What would Santa be leaving under your tree this year, Joe?
I asked for a new set of drift boat oars, which Santa said. He said, that's no problem. But the elves he has working at Cataract Oars, like I guess we'll say embedded at Cataract Oars, they're a little backed up. So strong chance my oars won't end up under the tree tomorrow morning. Like like Santa might have to swing by with those just before spring shad season kicks in. But how about you? What are you getting this year?
I asked Santa Claus for a used truck topper. Well, I'm not gonna make like Santa source materials in like the times of COVID because like that's not cool. It's like it's a little greedy. And I'll tell you what, Santa, I'm formally offering to go halvesies with you if you can find a used one in like the $2,000 range. I'll tell you what, one better. I'll go look on Craigslist and save the elves the trouble. And yeah, man, Santa, very low lift gift this year.
That is so nice. Man, what a guy helping Santa out like that. You know, thinking about it, I bet out there somewhere is a Jerry the canoe salesman for truck toppers. I'll bet you he exists.
Yeah, probably. But instead of like a cup of tea, you got like pound of natty ice and a shot of Jaeger and and hang out with him around like the burn barrel, you know?
That could be more interesting than the real Jerry. But hey, dude, at least doing that would add an element of excitement to receiving, you know, that gift. I always felt kind of sad, you know, like as you get older, it's a little bit sad. Yes. It's a little sad because you know what you're getting, right? Like you get what you need. You get less junk and you get what you need. But the magic of sort of losing sleep over whether or not something you asked for will or will not be under the tree is gone. Like, oh man, so many specific presents come to mind for me. But a big one was the Micro Machines Race in a Case.
The Micro Machine Man here with the perfect fit crew, the Mini Micro Men. Want to come in first place? Get the electric Micro Machines Race in a Case.
Super fast, super slots.
Open the case to start the race. Plug it in and play. It's set up that way. Race your Micro Machines road races down the terrific track up rolling roadways past the parking place, little light post, and super storage area. When you're done, you carry away the fun. And check out the crazy double corkscrew curves on the Micro Machines barrel roll competition. Zigzag in, out, up, out, all around. The Micro Machines Race in the Case and barrel roll competition race sets. Each sold separately with 2 road racing vehicles, power packs, and controllers from Galoob.
And I got it, but it kind of sucked. Like the cars didn't really stay on the track. It was not that easy to pack back up into the case, but I was still thrilled to have it. You know, it was a big one.
Yeah. See, like I don't remember specific toys like that. It was more whatever like I was obsessed with at the time, like fishing or, you know, hunting or what have you. But I was like, when I was a kid, I was really into Pokemon cards. Like, you may have been as enthralled by the Micro Machine commercials as I was about these kinds of commercials.
Are you ready to be the ultimate Pokemon Master Trainer?
Yes, I think I am.
Then join the Pokemon Trading Card Game League. You'll do awesome activities, learn wicked strategies, earn killer badges, and meet new friends as you begin your journey to become a Pokemon Master Trainer.
See, wow, man. See, I had no idea. Like, have you and Phil bonded over this? Because I don't think he could ever fire you. Isn't that some kind of Pokemon Warrior code? This is all news to me.
I think other than working at Meteor, this might be the only thing that Phil and I have ever had in common. Although, you know, my Pokemon days are a little bit behind me, but I remember being a kid and there were like 10 packs of Pokemon cards in my stocking one year, and I went just like apeshit. Because like it was never like that. Like I wasn't from like, it wasn't like when I wanted something as a kid, I just got it in spades. You know, if I begged enough for it, like
you got one pack of Pokemon cards. Yeah.
But you know, and every now and again, it was a special thing. But on Pokemon cards, here's something that's going to drive Phil just f***ing nuts. When Phil, this is for you, man. When I was in first grade, so like 1998. I traded a holographic first edition Chansey for 2 just regular ass Pikachus because the show had led me to believe that Pikachu was the best thing that there could possibly be. So you know what that means, and I'm sure you're gritting your teeth right now.
He's gonna call you into his office like with a little like buzz, like Hayden, can you come to my office, please? Thanks.
Yeah, he's like, what the were you thinking? But thinking back on like a present that really blew my mind was I got a Crossman pellet gun.
Oh,
and there was a full-on campaign involved.
Dude, I snuck BB gun onto my list every year, and I never actually got one from Santa, but my grandfather used to snap up everyone he saw at flea markets, so I had a whole arsenal at his place. Anyway, we certainly hope you find what you want under the tree tomorrow. Perhaps there will even be a few goodies from our sponsors, 13 Fishing. If you were really good, like really, really good, maybe you'll even find the Black Betty Freefall Carbon 10th Anniversary Trick Shop Edition ice reel. Have you seen that one? I know you have.
Dude, I ache for one of those, man. I ache for one of those. It's like this like brilliant gold.
Yeah.
It shines like 1,000 suns. It's like the Excalibur of the ice fishing world. That
Exactly.
It kicks so much ass, man.
It's very bold. It's either Excalibur or like the real ODB would use. But despite it being a bold statement piece, it's also highly functional. I probably should have asked Santa for one, you know?
It's never too late, man. You might get a chance in a very special edition of our Rapid Fire Q&A segment, Covering Water.
I'm going in. Cover me, Porkins.
I can hold it.
Pull up!
No, I'm all right.
So now, Joe, a couple weeks ago, I set up kind of a cool interview about the issues on the Madison River, and we both thought it went really well.
Yeah, I mean, kind of cool. I'm just kidding,
Oh,
dude. It was
stop it.
great. It was great.
Okay, well, for this installment of Covering Water, I've kind of set up something a little extra special, and I'm really excited. Today, we're joined by a very remote guest, all the way from the North Pole. That's right, boys and girls. We're here with the one and only Santa Claus.
What's up?
You okay, man?
Yeah, I'm fine. Ho, 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 Merry Christmas.
All right. Like I said, we're here with Santa. And Joe, you said a certain someone might want to say hi.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. Can my 3-year-old say hi real quick? Is that okay?
Yeah, we can do that.
Perfect. His name is
It's Jamie. I know what his name is.
Right. Okay. Great. Hey, bud, come here for 1 second. There's somebody I want you to meet.
Look who it is, Jamie. Who's that?
Santa!
What's up, kid?
Dad, why does Santa look so sleepy?
He's real tired from making all the toys, bud.
Joe, kid's old enough to know. Santa's got a buzz on there, Jamie.
What's a buzz?
Actually, bud, can you go downstairs? Why don't you go downstairs for a little while, okay?
Okay.
Thanks, buddy. Come on, man, really?
You guys just want to take it from the top real quick?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys noticed, but it's Christmas Eve.
Let's just do the interview, okay?
All right.
So Hayden brought you in because it turns out you're quite the avid angler. Now, I know you're normally the one who asks this, but Santa, what do you want for Christmas, man?
All St. Nick wants is a trip to St. Bart's and some time off. As a matter of fact, as soon as I get done dropping off all this shit tonight, old Santa Claus is going to take a well-deserved trip for some billfish, just me and Brandy. I mean, Mrs. Claus.
You're going to chase some bonefish while you're down there. You know, I hear that.
Let me stop you right there. I tried the whole fly fishing for bonefish thing. Fuck that. One of those snot-nosed 20-year-old Instagram influencers wannabe guides completely turned me off to that shit.
Yeah, well, yeah, that could be tough. But I guess it's a good reminder for our listeners. Always make sure you're booking with a really reputable guy. You know what I mean?
You know, that kid had the audacity to tell me that if I had a Helios 3 like him, maybe I'd be able to get out 10 more feet of line and actually make a shot. Motherfucker, the only reason you have a Helios 3 is because I brought it to you. You couldn't afford a goddamn ugly stick on the salary you make pulling tourists around Abaco.
Yeah, I could see how that might be.
And you know what else? All of you, stop asking for fancy-ass setups for Christmas. Do you know how many cease and desist orders I get from St. Croix? Do you know how many elves I've lost to graphite dust and resin fumes? Do you know how many times I've had to take conveniently timed sleigh ride to avoid OSHA? A lot, okay? Stop it.
Maybe we should just move on here, okay? Let's just all take a breath while I explain exactly how Covering Water works. So this is our rapid fire Q&A segment of Ben, okay? And what Hayden and I are going to do is we're going to put 2 minutes on the clock, and we are just going to pepper you with questions. And the whole idea here is that you don't really have any time to answer. You can't think too hard. You just have to kind of answer as quickly as you can. And then what we'll do at the end of this, we promise, is to give you 1 minute to expand or explain more about whatever you think was the most damning answer. And based on how this has gone so far, I would expect that there's going to be some damning answers. So does that all sound good, Santa?
I'm ready.
Okay, perfect. Let me put 2 minutes on the clock here. Hayden, you're going to ask first, right?
Yep.
All right, let's see how this goes. And begin.
Milk or cookies?
Rum balls.
What species of fish is on your bucket list?
A megalodon.
How's that possible?
Look, I live in a magic world where all things are possible, you fucking idiot. But the permit is just fucking outrageously expensive.
In all your years of doing this, which lure has ended up in stockings more than any other?
I mean, it was a daredevil spoon for almost 80 years until some dipshit decided to make a crankbait that looked like a Budweiser can.
All right. Favorite reindeer?
I don't know yet.
What do you mean you don't know yet?
CWD, man, we got a new crew this year.
They all got CWD and died?
No, turns out it was just blitzing. I had to test them all, though. Whatever, freezer's full.
Holy shit.
Everyone is so consumed with clean energy, yet you still rely heavily on coal. Can you tell us why?
You're kidding, right? Really? That's your ethics question? Not the hundreds of years of forced elven labor? Look, I got an endless supply of coal up there, okay? You switch to putting hypoallergenic crystals or some shit in the stockings of the kids that were assholes all year, the cost of goods goes up.
All right. Where's the one place you've always wanted to visit?
Are you f***ing with me? I am literally going everywhere tonight.
What's your favorite fish to eat?
That's easy. Dolphin.
I'm also a big fan of mahi-mahi.
No. Dolphin. Like flipper dolphin.
Yes, Santa hates dolphins, everybody. My man. Who's the naughtiest angler on your list this year?
That ginger kid you pal around with, Ross Robertson?
What's your favorite lure of all time?
Michigan cricket.
Oh, my God. We're running out of time here. Best gift you ever got?
Well, this one year, Jack Frost and the Heat Miser got together and got me this huge cake, right? They left it in the middle of the workshop. Now I'm about to cut into it when, boom, candy pops out. And I'm not talking about Jolly Ranchers. I'm talking about Candy, one of the North Pole dancers. And let me
Enough.
Cut him off.
All right, everyone. Santa Claus. Joe, you want to wrap this up, man?
Yeah, Santa, I know you're busy, and I think you have to get going. But fair is fair. You are supposed to have 1 minute to expand on any one of your answers. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit more.
Well, let me just tell you a little bit more about Candy.
You know, here at Bent, we love the children. I just really hope none were listening to that. Because you'll have 300 kids at the mall next Christmas asking Santa for Budweiser crankbaits and Michigan crickets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We might have done a disservice to the youth there.
Yeah, in case some listeners are extraordinarily ethical folks and have never surrounded themselves with this type of company, a Michigan cricket is a gigantic, like, weighted treble hook. It's like an egg sinker fused onto a treble hook.
Yeah.
And it's used to snag fish. Now, you can do that, like, legally for, like, paddlefish, but most of the time you hear it talked about, it's in the Great Lakes salmon scene.
Yeah,
less
that's
wholesome.
right. No offense, Michigan, but I did once see a Pennsylvania conservation officer pull about 15 of those out of his glove box, and he'd collected them along Elk and Walnut Creek in just a couple of days. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, I can't believe it's that many. Pretty crazy. But you know what? Speaking of snagging, let's see who snagged the better fishing-related story in this week's Fish News.
Fish News!
That escalated quickly.
All right, so real quick, question for you. Have you ever gotten a lure or some flies for Christmas, right? And then you stare at them all winter because, it's winter, so you can't run out to use the new hula popper. And then the first time you ever get them out in the water, you lose them?
Well, let me tell you a story, man. I know you love my long-winded stories.
I do.
Something more kind of analogous to that is the Edison show. You can go there and you get a whole bunch of flies for like
the
super
fly fishing
cheap.
show. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Well, I just got sick of being burned on not having super small flies. So I went there one time with like $250 in my pocket. I was like, look, I'm going to get all the midges. I'm going to get all like the little tiny betas. I'm going to get all that shit just taken care of right now. Went in, bought all the flies, bought a fly box to put them in, went out to the river, immediately lost the fly box.
Oh my God, you lost the entire box.
The entire thing. And it was one of the cool ones with like, it was like the aluminum and glass with like the windows and shit.
Oh, the little, you flick the switch and they pop. It's
with
like,
a little spring.
It's like English
like
chalk stream style stuff. It goes in a tweed jacket. Yeah.
Switchblade, English chalk stream, same thing.
I don't have a specific lure or fly story, but it happened to me in another capacity with a remote control boat. Like I got one of those for Christmas.
So neither of these are actually related to the question.
No, I started with the question. They're not related at all, but I was told by my dad not to touch it until spring, and he would take me out and show me how to use it. Did I listen? No, and I sunk it.
Was it a Titanic situation?
No, it was a really sweet, like Chris Craft sport fisher, and it went around the park.
Did you hit an iceberg?
No, it literally, I shit you not, it just went around in one circle. The bow dipped, and it literally just drove itself underwater. And then I watched it underwater, still driving, and it just like spiraled down. It was a bad deal. Anyway, here's why I brought up lost lures. Because if you happen to need a break from your family over the holidays, just quick note that the final episode of the Canadian Angle with Jay Siemens drops today on Meat Eater's YouTube channel. And here's what he does. He dons full scuba gear. He goes diving on Lake of the Woods for lost lures, refurbishes them, and then uses your misfortune to score himself an epic muskie to close it. Like you got to see it, right? And I thought the whole premise was extremely clever the way he did that.
Yeah, man, that's badass, man. I grew up fishing Lake Wallenpaupack a bunch, and it's a hydroelectric dam is like the reason for this lake being here. So the water level changes like constantly, and where I lived, there was this shoal that went straight out along this weed bed. And every summer around August is when they would drop the lake the lowest. So you could go out on that shoal. And in addition to picking up like pretty fresh props, I mean, some of them were dinged up. But occasionally you could find like a nice, clean prop. You would find all sorts of lures and cool crankbaits and shit just going all the way down.
There's some people, that's
thing.
their hobby, man. Like that's just what they barely fish. They just pick up lures. But anyway, I thought that was really neat. You should watch that. Let's get on with the news here. We're going to try and keep it light and perhaps Festivus. I don't know. I've gone Festivus, but I don't know where you've gone because this is a competition and we don't know which story the other dude grabbed. And at the end, jolly old St. Philip of the Audius and Genericus Mountains will declare a winner. And it is your lead this week, my man. So have at it.
All right, man. So, it's not super festive.
It's not festive. It's not Festivus, is it?
No. Unless you can consider like the destruction of one of the most important fisheries in the world a festive occasion. Is that something that makes you jolly?
What fishery are we talking about?
All right. So recently it was recommended that there be a 4/5 reduction on the cod catch in one of the two primary New England cod fisheries.
You can blame the Italians. 7 fishes, bacala, man. It's pretty much all the Italians' fault.
Yeah, man. So, darn Italians. I'm very Italian. Please don't at me. On December 10th, the New England Fishery Management Council decided on a quota of 540,000 pounds, and this is of Atlantic cod, down from a previous quota of 2.4 million pounds. So again,
a lot.
Like
4/5
reduction. The reduction would be for the Georges Bank, the other primary Atlantic cod fishery. That way, the Gulf of Maine will see the quota stay, stable from last year, I believe, at 590,000 pounds. Now, look, reductions like this in the economic short term suck. But this kind of management really is essential for long-term conservation goals. And to contextualize it, we can look back on a little history of New England's cod fishery to understand why. And Joe, I'm going to pass this to you in a second.
It's quite a history.
So everybody likes cod. It's a white, firm, flaky fish. It's good to eat. It's not fishy. Everybody likes it, man. It's the same reason everybody likes walleye. Same reason everybody likes, which is like always been kind of like a funny thing to me. It's like upper echelon of edible fishes. They're defining like characteristic. People be like, It's not fishy at all, man.
You're right, but see, I can't rip on that too much because I've said a bunch of times on the show. I think you have too. Like, you and I are not fans of overly fishy fish.
No, man. There's a reason that when I get like sushi and it's like a sushi like chef's assortment or like, dinner where it's like, 10 pieces or whatever, I'm always like, hey, can you substitute the mackerel for like,
I do the same
anything
thing.
else?
Please assort the mackerel off of the sushi platter. Thanks. Yeah.
So, but this was a resource that was hugely important. I mean, it's been important in the context of history. In fact, the dude who wrote the book Salt has that book Cod. I mean, like, there's a lot of meat on that bone. But it was a hugely valuable resource for not only the indigenous folks of America, but for early settlers as well. Now, fast forward to the 20th century and super efficient commercial processing, on boats, coupled with more efficient fishing techniques, the fishery became overfished. And I mean, you know a lot more about that particular history than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I've done some cod fishing out of Montauk back in the day. And
Eric Garber just caught a surprise cod.
Well, I was gonna say, so yeah, Eric. What'd you say his last name was? Garber. Kerber, leave it in.
Damn
my
it.
old pal
No.
Kerber.
Oh man, I'm gonna go. Is this airing after we go fishing with him?
I don't know. Maybe.
Sorry,
Too bad.
bro.
It's okay. Yeah, man. Eric Kerber, my boy Eric. He recently. That was a very big cod.
Yeah.
For Jersey, and it was very close inshore because he was togging. He wasn't like way offshore.
Yeah.
But I've done some of this out of Montauk. There was a time when the Jersey boats were advertising cod trips again, but it was kind of bullshit. Like, basically what that meant was, we'll take you out to the Ling grounds and probably 2 or 3 cod will end up on somebody's line, but to say we're going out to target them, and we could spend hours on this, but the bottom line is, like, cod was such an important fish throughout the Northeast recreationally for so many years. I mean, the party boats made their money, the recreational captains. I remember reading articles in the archives of Field and Stream, like in the dead of winter when the stripers were all gone, dudes on Cape Cod would go out there and surf fish for 20, 30 pound cod, like in the waves on Cape Cod.
That's cool.
And I've had some good cod fishing, but the consensus, you talk to any old heads, it's like, this is nothing.
Well,
this
yeah,
is
I mean,
crap. Like, this
nothing.
is just, it's like, if your dream is to catch a 40, 50 pound cod, that is extremely hard to do anymore.
Right. So back in the day, like, we're going to go to 1976 real quick. In 1976, the Magnuson Act, and this is what contributed to a lot of like the pressure and a lot of like the commercial overfishing. In 1976, the Magnuson Act, it prohibited foreign operations from fishing within the exclusive economic zone of the United States, the EEZ, right? And the EEZ includes all fisheries within 200 miles of the U.S. coast. Now, you would think that would do, that would alleviate the pressure. Well, yes and no. I mean, sure, from like foreign commercial fleets eliminated all that pressure unilaterally. But because folks got so excited about like the lack of, international competition, the U.S. fleet expanded and the pressure on the resource within that 200-mile like buffer zone intensified.
It's a very like, be careful. So back in the day, I mean, there's a thing called the Cod Wars. It's been raging forever, but yeah, back in the day, like, you'd have Russian boats on Georgia's bank, like from it was insane. But you're right, that's exactly what happened. They got all them out, and then everybody's like, well, now mine.
Yep.
And it was such an economic driver that's exactly what happened. We overfished them. We got them out and overfished it ourselves.
Right. So since then, or maybe not since then, but within the wake of that act. In the last 40 years or so, the decline in take has been sort of like precipitous. To contextualize that, in the 1980s, right, annual catches typically topped 100 million pounds of cod. And then after a crash in the 90s, not so much. Now there is a lot of these conservation stories, man. They're like so doom and gloom that I feel like it gets people unenthusiastic about good changes that are being made, even if they're difficult changes, right? Some people, like, their reaction is, oh, well, like, I'll never go do that because it's just so messed up. Some people throw their hands up and say, well, if it's this messed up already, why not make hay while the sun shines? But there is good news. Per NOAA, In the Gulf of Maine fishery, a 10-year rebuilding plan has been implemented for this stock, and the stock is targeted to rebuild by 2024.
Mm-hmm. Gulf of Maine, as I understand it, they have the best thing going. Like that's the best cod fishery in the Northeast right now is in the Gulf of Maine.
Yeah, and this has been the second, this is the second rebuilding plan for this stock. So, I mean, it's something that, folks have had their eye on and they've been trying to, perpetuate the resource. Now, with continued careful management, back to what we're talking about, which is this, 4/5 quota slash on Georges Bank, the Georges Bank stock is scheduled to rebuild by 2027. So a lot of these like management programs, people have like the idea of like, okay, we'll implement these cuts that like that are no fun for anybody. And then we'll see what happens. It's important to remember that, similar to like, the other week we covered, Mackinac in the Flathead Lake.
Yep.
There are defined conservation goals attached to these plans. And when these plans are successful and that goal is met, you get something a lot better than that resource that wasn't doing so well before these plans were implemented. So, take your medicine and we'll come out with a better thing. Another interesting like kind of thing to note is kind of how we consume fish and the effect that it has on fisheries. For instance, speaking of like, to keep it on cod, a shift to the more stable and economical pollock has taken a lot of pressure off the cod fisheries. To contextualize that, McDonald's fish fillet was cod, now pollock.
So that's interesting. Well, maybe I was not aware that McDonald's fillet of fish was ever truly cod. I thought it was cod from Alaska, but that's neither here nor there. The funny thing is, I haven't had a piece of cod in probably 10 years. And the last time I ate it, I caught it. Because if I see it in a fish market, it's usually too expensive. And if I see it on a menu, I just don't ever believe that it's cod. Because I know so much about the cod fishery. I'm like, really? This is $20 a pound in the fish market, but for $15.95, I can have the all-I-can-eat cod, fish, and chips? I doubt it. But the truth is, there's nothing wrong with pollock. It always gets downplayed like, oh, that's not as good. Pollock is delicious, and there's a lot more of them,
Do you know what the fish fillet was even before cod? This is the second switch. Do you know what the fish fillet was made with originally?
I don't, but I'm going to take a wild stab. Dogfish.
No. No. The first thing that the McDonald's fish fillet was made of was actually halibut.
Oh, and then they got, that then makes a lot of sense, actually.
Now they're pollock. Yep.
Well, here's one final note on cod. Everybody's like, oh my God, fresh cod. There's nothing like fresh cod. You ask anybody who's ever caught a cod ever, it is extremely rare to catch one that is not riddled with worms.
Yep.
Almost every cod is full of worms. Now, they're big worms, and there's a method to get them out. They'll crawl right out. But still, I'll never forget the first time I ever went cod fishing.
What, do you put them in a brine?
I actually wrap them in a paper towel, and a lot of times they'll just come out on their own in the fridge.
Huh.
Yeah, there's a few different ways. But I remember I caught a pile of it off Montauk. My wife, who was just my girlfriend at the time, was living in New York City, and I brought all this cod to her apartment. And the girl she lived with, I was like, I am making you ladies fresh cod tonight. And busted out the fillets, and it was just like friggin' orange worms everywhere. And it was a total turnoff. It doesn't bother me, but a lot of people, if they knew, like even if you buy fancy cod, that shit had worms in it before it got to you. 100% guarantee.
Speaking of unexpected and surprisingly brightly colored, man, I know you've seen this a bunch, and I'm sort of familiar with it, but I don't understand the nuances of it. Every now and again, you will see an electric blue cod down to the color of the fillet. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, but I've seen that. I don't know what causes it though. I don't know if it's diet or what. But I mean, I imagine the pigmentation has to be somewhat similar to like how don't ling mouths on the West Coast, like during certain phases. I'm making shit up. I don't know why that happens, but I have seen that before. There's also bright blue lobsters. That's a real prized thing up there.
See, listeners, we don't know everything.
We don't.
I thought I was gonna tee you up and you were gonna hit it out of the park, man. I thought you were gonna be like,
I don't know anything about no blue cod, man. I don't know. That shit's whack.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer is going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.
How about let's
You want to get more festive?
Let's say I'm gonna get a little more festive,
Okay.
and I'm gonna. This is a little more uplifting, I guess, and just a little more festive in general. And I'm gonna have to kick it back to Santa Claus here. So I know we just talked to Santa, and he had told us he wanted to go bill fishing somewhere, but he must not have gotten the memo yet because it's apparently already been determined where he'll be fishing on December 27th. And here's how it was determined: Berkeley Fishing teamed up with Santa for quite the contest. And here's the gist in Santa's own voice via Berkeley's website.
I love to fish. I've been fishing all around the world, and this year I thought I'd try to find someplace new and exciting. So I asked my friends at Berkeley Fishing if they could help me find a location that is the best fishing spot, and they said that they would love to do that.
Santa sounds different in that
Yeah,
clip,
he doesn't
he?
sound like the Santa we interviewed.
He's like kindler, gentler, more coherent. You know.
Less
anyway, yeah, exactly. Anyway, naturally, I'm always intrigued when like the best fishing towns or trout towns or striper towns or whatever are ranked, right? And this style of clickbait journalism it's like rampant now. Like you can find a list of the 5 best cities for anything these days. You know, like 5 best cities for people who love socks, best places to live if you hate pet stores, you know, whatever. Anyways, what Berkeley did was they put out a call for town submissions. That was step 1. And they told me they received more than 40 town nominations. From those, they whittled, yes, but still 40. Okay.
Yeah.
From those, they whittled down the list to the following 5 locations where Santa could end up. So these were the choices: Hartwell, Georgia, which is home of Hartwell Lake, and that's a pretty epic bass fishery. Huntsville, Alabama. That's also some killer bass fishing and crappie fishing down there. Springfield, Illinois, and which honestly, nothing is jumping out at me regarding famed fisheries in Springfield, but that's okay, because as we'll learn, these towns weren't just chosen based on having a big-time local fishery. There were other reasons for the decision. Other choices, last 2, Long Beach, California, which is on the coast just south of LA, and finally, Panama City Beach, Florida.
Hell yeah! PCB, baby!
So the next phase of the contest was that they asked people to vote on one of those 5 locations, and Santa.
Our Santa definitely would have gone to Panama City.
Yeah, I mean that's a party town, right? It's a party town, and so you vote, and Santa will roll into whichever town wins on December 27th. And it turns out here is where Santa is actually going.
Well qualified to represent the LBC.
Long Beach, California scored the most votes.
Nice.
Which doesn't totally rule out billfish for Old St. Nick. Like it's a long run, But Swordfish qualifies,
Sure.
right? He can fly his sleigh over to Catalina with the 80 wide and dance with a broadbill. Anyway, there's more to the picture than just Santa showing up to fish. As I mentioned, there's more than just a fishery involved in these locations. So Berkeley is donating up to $25,000 to the winning community, and that can be used for anything fishing related that they want. So the locations were also very much tied to community needs. That money can be used for conservation, right? Or to promote fishing in the area. So it's all for a killer cause. Matter of fact, on the website, they explained the specific organizations that would benefit in each location. And here's what it said for Long Beach. A vote for Long Beach, California will help El Dorado Regional Park purchase specific items related to fishing and conservation education about the lake and wilderness. Additionally, prize money will be used to help purchase items to help preserve wildlife throughout the park. So that's pretty damn cool, man. Like that's just an all-around cool contest. Santa is also showing up with mountains and mountains of tackle and gear. And Berkeley, if he's late or something, obviously we have a direct line to him as well.
That's true.
So we'll give him a kick in the arse if need be. But I thought that was great. That's a really cool contest.
Yeah, man. I mean, so many of these events are not only do they kind of like highlight, certain fisheries and like they're good for content, right? Like, you're going to go out there and you're going to have a good time fishing or whatever. But I really love it when they tie in like all that conservation and bring attention to like a region that you might not think of as somewhere that there is like some significant like fishing to be, either improved from a public image standpoint or from a conservation standpoint.
Exactly. And I think that's what's so cool about what they've done here. Initially, you look at that list and you're like, oh, I understand this spot. Wait, why here? But then if you really read further into the specific reason that those 5 were chosen, they're all very good reasons that would have benefited a lot of local anglers. So props for that. And now I guess we'll kick it over to Phil for his Christmas Eve judgment. Hey, Phil, what's Santa bringing you? We'd love to know. And then as soon as Phil finishes explaining it to all of us non-gamers, we've got a lovely, heartwarming, Hallmark Channel ready Christmas message from our dear friend, Riverhorse.
So for Christmas this year, I asked Santa for an uplifting and topical fish news story. And only one of you brought that to me this week. Joe Cermelli, you're the winner. And Hayden, I'm not too upset with you for trading your holographic Chansey for those 2 common Pikachu cards. You know why? Because I was the guy that made that trade with you all those years ago. Grade A, sucker. Thanks for padding my kid's college savings account. Merry Christmas.
Hey now, this is Riverhorse with some sagely wisdom, coming to you from the far north Arctic Circle in Swedish Lapland, where all of the reindeer on this earth originated from. I'm on a little winter adventure with the Sami tribe. Is it cold, you ask? My lord, let's just say this place is set to chill. Speaking of all things chill, perhaps this holiday season finds you caught up in the sometimes bizarre, gonzo, and beautiful hurricane of extended family hoopla, with all the loose ends of making a living to navigate, which for some can be a wee bit overwhelming. Oh, you just pay it no mind. Just calm your soul. Late at night, after everyone else falls asleep, you just quietly slip on out the back door, take a deep breath, look up at the shimmering stars, and remember how lucky we are to be here. There are millions of miles of rivers, lakes, and oceans with fish out there waiting for you. As for me, I'm about to put a kettle of snow water over this birchwood fire and brew up some hot chocolate. Always say yes to whipped cream on top, baby. Then I'll curl up on this forest floor of pine needles in a sub-zero down sleeping bag and dream away of 10-pound bass, all lips and hips. Here's to you, my brothers and sisters. I will see you along the path in 2022. I believe in you. You got this. And remember, you don't always have to find the catch of a lifetime. Just find someone and get on under the mistletoe, and oh my lordy, make it happen.
River Horse is genuinely the only dude I know who can go from like an uplifting holiday message to like straight up sensual in the span of 3 words.
I know, dude, I know. And that's why we love the guy. Like, you come away from that like, did I even hang mistletoe? Because I need to get on that shit right now. Anyway, before we sign off, we've got an end of the line that I'm particularly excited about, okay? So last Christmas, I did one on the Panther Martin spinner and talked about how I used to get them every Christmas from my uncle. And I ended that by saying the story I was telling about the Panther and how near and dear it was to my heart could easily be told similarly by someone else that grew up throwing an entirely different brand of spinner. And wouldn't you know it, our own Hayden Samick is that different someone.
Fishy, 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 fishy! Well, that's not loud enough, Bert.
My earliest memories are mostly fishing small streams with my dad, my brother, and my grandpa. We might have been fishing for, sunnies, stockers, or smallies, but one thing remained constant. At the end of our lines, always a Swiss swing. Now, a Swiss swing is an inline spinner with a brass bead body and silver, gold, or copper-colored blade embossed with scales and the words Swiss swing. My brother and I grew up fishing them almost exclusively. I assumed everyone knew what a Swiss swing was, and I carried that assumption with me right up to the point that I sat down to write this. Long story short, I couldn't find any information on the spinner. I couldn't find out who manufactured them, let alone how they were developed. It became clear that if I wanted to know more about this spinner, I was going to have to look somewhere else. So I started researching a similar but apparently more well-known spinner called the CP swing. In the pantheon of great spinners, the CP swing is a cult classic. But oddly, not much information exists on the history of this spinner either. So I went down yet another rabbit hole, which took me all the way to the advent of the inline spinner itself. It was French engineer André Milnard who developed and patented the first inline spinners in 1938. Eventually, a guy named Todd Sheldon started selling them in the US, and in 1973 bought Milnard's company outright. That company was, and is still, known as MEPS. Now, this is not a story about MEPS, but MEPS, specifically the MEPS shimmy, might have played an important role in the development of the CP swing. If we look at Milnard's original patent for the MEPS shimmy next to an image of the CP swing, you will notice that the CP swing bears a striking resemblance to Milnard's drawings. As I've said before, a history of the CP swing is hard to come by, and this might be the reason for that. Comparing the two, I think it would be fair to assume that the CP swing was, in fact, a knockoff of Milnard's original design for the MEPS shimmy. The fact that genuine CP swings are advertised as made in France also points to this as a possibility. Perhaps this is why a detailed history of the popular lure is so hard to come by. The CP swing is probably a knockoff of an early MEP, and to that end, we're nearly done unpacking a very unofficial and speculative history of the Swiss swing. Now, I want to add one thing in here. I noticed that in the forums and online classifieds I was researching, many folks discussing and advertising Swiss swings are based in the Northeast, and the majority are located in my home state of Pennsylvania. This could be the final piece of the puzzle. Listeners, together, we may have solved the mystery of why I know these inline spinners as Swiss swings. It seems one of the talismans of my childhood is, in fact, a regional knockoff of a knockoff, made in some factory, somewhere by someone, though no one can tell you exactly who. Again, I admit all of this is wildly speculative. If you know something I don't, write me. I'd be glad to hear from someone who knows better than I. But to be honest with you, the lack of definitive origin has quickly become one of my favorite things about this familiar little spinner. Because in trying to uncover that origin, I've found the story of the Swiss swing is written entirely by those who use it. I want to end with something else I discovered in my research, a surprising and shared sentimentality. Of the Swiss swing, folks wrote, "Oh man, that spinner caught an absolute ton of smallies for Dad and I in Cayuga. that back in the day, it's the only spinner we used on trout, and they killed them. There were dozens of anecdotes just like this, penned by all sorts of fishermen, and most of them framed the little spinner as a treasured part of their past. It seems that I'm not alone in my fondness and nostalgia for the Swiss swing, and that speaks to a paradox I've noticed within these more sentimental aspects of fishing. There are certain things a fisherman will experience that are at once deeply personal and somehow ubiquitous. Perhaps that's why, as fishermen, we're able to meet a stranger on a riverbank and within minutes know them. Did you grow up fishing a lure no one else seems to know about? Shoot us a note at bent@themeateater.com and tell us what personal favorite was at the end of your line.
So that's it for the Christmas Eve version of Bent. We hope all of you have a wonderful time with your friends and family, full of holiday cheer, copious amounts of eggnog, and plenty of glazed ham, my friends.
You know, I got hammered once on eggnog, and I really, really don't recommend it. If you thought a White Russian hangover is gross, it's a whole other thing.
Yeah, the eggnog is slightly thicker than the Russian. Slightly thick. It's heavier.
It's more of a sipping drink, I've come to learn. But what I do recommend is sending a bar nomination, awkward photo, sale bin item, news piece, or question to bent@themeateater.com. You know, I can speak for Joe when I say this. We love hearing from you guys.
Yeah, I can also speak for myself, too, and say we surely do. Also, keep using those Degenerate Angler and Bent Podcast hashtags on the gram. Perhaps tag a fishy something Santa left you. And from the bottom of our degenerate hearts,
Folks, Merry Christmas.
Hey everybody, listen up. I got mega huge news. Meat Eater Live is heading back out on the road. That's right. Join me and the crew. Clay Newcomb, Cal, Yanni, Spencer's going to be there. Phil the engineer's going to be there. Meat Eater Live headed back out. Now, when you get every ticket, okay? Every ticket you buy, you get a signed copy of our new Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook. This tour is celebrating the release of the book. Buy a ticket, get a signed copy, Meat Eater Outdoor Cookbook, wild game recipes for the grill, smoker, camp stove, and campfire, which I'll point out is a $38 value. Here's where we're going to go. April 23rd, the Mesa Arts Center in Mesa, Arizona. April 24, the Balboa Theater in San Diego. April 25, the Grove in Anaheim, California. April 27, the Crest Theater in Sacramento. April 29, the Union in Salt Lake City. April 30, the Egyptian in Boise. May 1, the Wilma Theater in Missoula. May 2, the Bing Crosby Theater in Spokane, Washington. May 4, Revolution Hall in Portland, Oregon. And May 5, the last day of the tour, Pantages Theater in Tacoma, Washington. For tickets and more information, visit the events page at themeateater.com. Hope to see you at the show.